Welcome to Stellar Sisters, the podcast where cosmic wisdom meets soul-enriching conversation.
We explore astrology, human design, and the unique blueprint of your soul, helping you understand yourself on a deeper level.
Consider this your permission slip to embrace the magic of being authentically you.
Let's begin.
Hi, and welcome back. Today we have a fun episode all about environments in human design. So Sydney is going to walk us through all of the environments and share where we all thrive the best, what environment we thrive the best in. So I'm really excited to dive into this. Personally, I don't know too much about the topic, so I'm really excited to learn.
Yeah, yay. Before we get into this, you probably want to pull up your chart. So if you have it saved, pull it up. And if not, you can go to our website, stellarsisterspodcast.com, and pull up your chart for free. And what we're looking at today are the arrows that are kind of near the head of the body graph. And the environmental arrow is the bottom left arrow that you're looking at in your chart. And it's either pointing left or right, and I'll get into that. But your chart basically will tell you what your environment is. So it'll say something like shores or markets or kitchens. And then depending on if it's pointing left or right, that kind of gives it a little bit more nuance. Before we dive into the 6 environments, it's just important to know that it doesn't actually mean your environment where you're living necessarily. It can, but I don't want you to hear that you have mountains or shores and be like, crap, I don't live by the ocean, or I don't live on a mountaintop. Like, should I move? And that's like definitely not the case. It's more so where your body can kind of feel its most authentic, and where your body can relax, and where your nervous system feels like it's regulating, a place that feels really good to you in some way. And when you first get into environments in human design, sometimes you might not resonate with it. Maybe you're like, I never like go up on a mountain, or I never go somewhere high up or have that perspective. But it's an experiment, right? So it's fun to just experiment with it, see how you feel if you don't necessarily resonate with it. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is listening to your strategy and authority. So if you hear me talk about your environment and you're just like, no, maybe it's just not the time to experiment with it. But it can be fun to lean into, because it's where typically most people can feel your intuition. You can notice synchronicities. You can process your emotions better. Feel like you can kind of reconnect with yourself, kind of where your creativity flows, or where you're feeling like you have those aha moments, or like a download comes in. Somewhere where you feel like you're getting clarity in some way. And it doesn't have to be a permanent place. It can be something that maybe you go do, once a day, somewhere where you have your coffee, where you're brainstorming or journaling, or maybe you go to your environment once a week. You don't have to live, wherever your environment actually is. And if you're looking at your chart and you have kitchens, that can kind of be confusing. So I'll get into what that means. It's like, do I have to live in my kitchen? No.
Yeah, the names for some of the stuff in human design are kind of funny.
Yeah. So does that kind of make sense? It's not where you need to live. It's just where you can kind of, your body relaxes and you are just feeling like you're more connected to your authentic self.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We can't all like always live, in that best environment, but just maybe knowing where you can go to relieve pressure or stress or get downloads or
yeah, exactly,
that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I never want anybody to feel like they have to be boxed in human design. You hear something and you're just like, well, my diet's cold thirst. Like, I only can eat cold food. No. Maybe you drink some cold drinks throughout the day. And then, like, I personally love my hot coffee. I've been experimenting with cold iced coffee all summer trying to like make myself a frappuccino and ice. I don't like it. I like my coffee warmed up, and I have cold thirst. So that's like an example. You know, you don't have to do cold stuff all the time if you have cold thirst. You don't have to live by the shoreline if you have shores for your entire life. So human design is meant to help you lean into your truest self, your most authentic self, and not feel like you're being boxed in.
Yes,
So,
makes sense.
yes, I just want that to hit home. All right, so the first one is caves. And caves, people think safety, privacy, retreat. Caves environments are all about feeling protected. These people want to have a sense of control around their environment, places where their nervous system can relax because they have that sense of privacy and control and containment. And it's about having kind of this sanctuary where you can think clearly and create, and a place where you can really recharge before going back out into the world. So a kid with caves, it's like really important for them to have their room that they love and that they helped set up and situate in some way. They just really need to feel safe and comfortable in a space that reflects their own personal style or taste. And if you have caves and your bottom left arrow is pointing left, you have selective caves. And this is just when you feel best, when you get to choose who or what enters your space. So examples of this are like a window seat that has your back protected, or like a private backyard, or a home office with your door closed. Any place where you can see the entrance in some way. That's selective caves. And then blending caves is the arrow pointing right. And this is still wanting to have that comfort, that safety feeling of a cave, but you're more comfortable kind of sharing that space with other people. So think like cozy coffee shop corner, or a booth at a restaurant, or a shared studio with like defined workspaces, but where you have your own little space, but it's kind of more shared, or, you know, being maybe the place where you have that cozy home and you're the one inviting people over to share your cave, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My dad has caves and he is such a caves person.
Really?
Yes, he loves like just his own environment. He always wants to drive somewhere himself, so he is in control of the situation, you know, and like he could leave if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So just caves is like a place that's safe and private, and you can control the area. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that you have to live in a physical cave.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, those people just love kind of creating their little spaces, like their little nests within their home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is, once we kind of get into it, you can see how this is very different from some of the other environments.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next one is markets. Chanel has markets.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Chanel? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And for markets, you can think exchange, some kind of energy exchange, variety that's going on, stimulation. Markets environments really thrive on that movement, having some variety in some way, an exchange of ideas and energy. And you don't necessarily have to be social. You don't have to be, an extrovert. You can be an introvert that has markets. It's just that you come more alive when that type of exchange is happening around you. So, like, you don't have to go sit outside at a busy place all day long, right? It's just kind of going there maybe once a week or a couple times a week to get that feeling of the energy exchange.
Yeah.
Does that make sense for you, Chanel?
Yes, it very much does, because like with caves, like I'm just contrasting it to caves, it feels like they need like their own private space where they're like alone, but like I feel like sometimes for me that can be I don't know, it doesn't like if I go, even if I am working at home versus like working at a coffee shop or something, just being in like that coffee shop environment,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know. I feel more energized to work, than like being
Interesting.
alone. Like
Yeah.
that little bit of like energy and movement, even though I'm not directly involved in it, like can
Yeah.
really affect like my, I don't know, it gives me more energy and it
Yeah.
makes me more like able to like do my work or whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. Exactly. You're kind of recharging by that environment,
Yeah.
right? And like a
Yeah.
cave person is like recharging from their like cozy corner in their house,
Yeah.
like reading a book in their cozy corner, where Chanel's getting kind of recharged by that hustle bustle buzzing sound in the background, but maybe she's not necessarily engaging with it. She doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
because she has internal markets, which I'll get into in a second. Somebody with external markets might want to like physically connect, physically and engaging and like be out there all day long. But someone like you, Chanel, that's internal, it's like you can be in that environment and just kind of observe it. You don't have to like be into the hustle and bustle like an external markets person.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to say about you that you've told me many times before is just with your astrology readings. This is a really good example. You're someone that likes to have the energy exchange in a reading and have somebody give you feedback and tell you what's going on in their life and have like a conversation, while you're giving a reading instead
Yeah,
of
a
someone
back
just
and forth. Yeah.
yeah,
Like instead of just like talking at
at
somebody about
them.
their chart, I
Right.
like to have more of a conversation about it.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think that's a really, really good example of the market energy exchange type of person.
I love that.
Yeah. So
And does it also lend itself to being a therapist?
yeah, for sure. You're
Because I would
getting
think
that
that that's very similar.
energy exchange.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as a therapist, you have to interact with your clients, right?
Yeah.
Like there's many jobs where you don't have to interact with people all day long.
Right. Right.
And since I don't know what you'll end up doing, whether you'll be like physically with them or doing more remote, but like if you're doing them, maybe it'll be a combination. But remote would just make so much sense because like you're still getting that exchange, but it's more internal. Like you'll be in your own home, in your own office that you've set up.
Yeah.
So it just that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Very
Um,
interesting.
yeah. But so if you have markets on your chart and your lower left arrow is pointing left, you have internal markets like Chanel. And it basically just means that the exchange kind of happens inside the space or like more internally. So like I just said, remote working, kind of exchanging energy in your own space. But, like right now, Chanel and I are exchanging energy. Coffee shops, bookstores, libraries, shopping malls, just really anywhere where you can observe the energy exchange. Maybe you're not totally immersed in it. And then also having the exchange maybe just remotely, where you're by yourself, but you're still having some type of exchange.
Mm.
And then external markets, your arrow's pointing right. And the exchange more so happens out in the open. And maybe you're more of a seeker of like going multiple places in the day, and that really fuels your energy. So think more so like street fairs or festivals or outdoor cafes or busy city streets, downtown shopping districts, farmers markets, if I didn't say that already. And it doesn't mean that like Chanel doesn't like those places either. I'm just trying to give like examples of them.
Right.
Like a markets person could be in any of these places that I'm talking about and resonate with them. But like the external one is just kind of more all over the place, kind of getting energy from that. My mom is a really good example of external markets. She has external markets and she gets energized by going to like 5 different stores and coming over to my house and then going over to my sister's house. And she's just hustling and bustling everywhere all day long. And she just can go, 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 go. Whereas my dad has caves. And if he ever goes with her, he'll drive her around and he'll just sit in his car and read a book while she like goes into the store and goes shopping, and then he'll like chauffeur her to the next place. So that's kind of a good example of caves and markets blending and mixing.
That's
He's
such a perfect example. I
yeah,
love that.
he'll sit in his comfy cozy car with a drink and his books, and my mom will hustle and bustle around all day. It's just so funny.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And they neither of them like understand human design at all, no matter how much I talk about it or, try to explain, but they just naturally do that in their lives. So it's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is kitchens. And, or do you have anything else to add to markets, Chanel, since that's yours? Like anything else that you have observed in your own life with having markets?
No, I think I really resonate with that. It makes a lot of sense to me because I even like when I was working like fully remote, that would be really hard for me because I do like to interact with people. So even just like
Yeah.
having a conversation with somebody like over, a video chat or something like that would give me a little bit more of that like energy to
Mhm.
kind of like sustain myself throughout the day versus like I don't think I'm somebody that would do really well just working solo all day long and not having some type of energy exchange with other people. But I
Mhm.
do still, the internal part also really resonates with me because I would like to be at home and choose when I get to like
Yeah,
interact with people,
exactly. Yeah.
versus like, being forced to go into the office every single day. Like that
Yeah.
wouldn't feel great to me.
Right.
So I really resonate with mine.
Yeah. One other example of this too is my brother-in-law has external markets, and he's a 4/6, and he just loves connecting with people and talking to people and going out and about and going to happy hour and just having 1,000 activities to do. And when COVID happened and everybody had to be home and, everybody was working remote, it was really, really tough on him because he is one of those people that loves to go to the office and like hang out by the water cooler. Right?
Yeah.
Like something I really don't like doing. But like he thrives and gets energy from that. So
Yeah.
it's just really fascinating to observe all
Mhm.
the different ones. All right. So the next one is kitchens. And for kitchens, think creativity, some kind of transformation, alchemy. I love kitchens. I kind of wish I had this one. My sister has it. My sister Gretchen has it. She's so creative. And this one's one that's like kitchens. What does that even mean? It doesn't mean that you have to be in a physical kitchen. When I hear kitchens, I just really the word creative just kind of encompasses this one for me the best, I think.
And it doesn't mean that you have to like cooking.
Right. You don't even have to like cooking to have kitchens. But it's an environment where things are coming together and creating something new in some way. It supports creativity and experimentation and collaboration, transformation. So yeah, it's really not about cooking. It's about ideas, and people and projects are like constantly mixing, you know, like creating a new recipe or a new potion or something, new things sparking. So it's really important for kitchens people to have a space where they can be creative in some way, and even consume things that spark their creativity, like incorporating that into your day somehow when you're relaxing. Like, what are you listening to? What are you watching? Is it sparking your creativity in some way? Are you watching a show that's like a home improvement show, or maybe you're watching a cooking show or a baking show, that kind of thing? And you obviously don't have to do that all day long, but is there something you're into that you're constantly consuming that's like fueling your creativity in some way?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you can either have wet or dry kitchens. And wet kitchens is your bottom left arrow pointing left. And this like nourishing, emotionally rich spaces, kind of flowy spaces. So you can think like actual kitchens, coffee shops, bakeries, like a garden center, a flower shop, a pottery studio, places with water, since it's wet kitchens, or like more of like a humid environment.
Mm.
Yeah, so places with water, plants, warmth, some kind of aroma could be supportive with this. I don't know, if you live near like a greenhouse or a garden center that you really like to visit, that would be supportive with this.
I'm picturing the Practical Magic House and like the apothecary
Oh yeah.
that they have with like all of the different herbs and stuff
Yeah,
like
that's
that,
perfect example.
where you can just kind of like make, you know, a potion or make a
Yeah.
tincture that like would
Yes.
support you or nourish you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wet kitchens. Um, and then dry kitchens is the other one, that's with your arrow lower left pointing right. And it's more focused, practical spaces where transformation kind of happens through making and building. So think like workshops, woodworking shops, craft rooms, design studios, recording studios, laboratories, more of like a drier environment as well. So not like humid and wet, but just like a drier, airier environment. Like I'm thinking more of like a modern art studio type, you know, um, instead of the more like vibrant colors garden shop, that makes sense.
Mm.
And it's interesting, Gretchen's husband, Roberto, has dry kitchens and she has wet kitchens. So they both have kitchens, but they're a little bit opposite. They're both super creative people. And it's just, Gretchen is more, I'd say, like colorful and wants to add the color and artistic. And Roberto is, into the more technology part of things and recording things and being creative in that way. And he's into woodworking. He's into like welding and
Wow, that's a like
crafting.
very spot on like kitchen
Yeah.
environment, right?
Yeah. And like my sister's into pottery, like wet clay, wet kitchens. And like
Yeah,
Roberto's into the welding part. So like more dry and like fire, So it's
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah. Wow, that one is interesting. So like basically like a creative environment where they can like be creative and
Yeah.
use their imagination and
Yeah.
like, creative skills in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in your home, it's important if you are into cooking and baking, you want your kitchen to be your sanctuary, like set up beautifully and pick the colors and organize it in the way you want and have artwork on the wall and plants and, all that stuff and make it feel really good for you. If you're
Mm,
not into cooking or baking, I'd say like whatever your hobby is, like do you have a space where you can do that feels comfortable and creative and, bringing that spark. And if not, if you live in a small place and you don't have room for any of those things, or maybe you have a roommate and you're living with someone and you just don't feel like you have that creative space in your own place, then there's got to be somewhere where you can go that has it,
yeah,
somewhere outside or picking up a craft where you go to like that place where you can be creative in some way.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So next one is mountains. And mountains is all about perspective, clarity, vision. And mountains is what it sounds like, being high up on a hill or a mountain, somewhere where you have that perspective where you can look down kind of high above like the noise and just being able to gain that clarity in like a fresh air place, gain perspective in that same way. Being physically and visually elevated just helps you to process things, easier and have that bigger picture and have those downloads come in when you're in those kind of spaces. So if you don't live on a physical mountain or a hill or somewhere, or maybe a high-rise building, somewhere where you have perspective, you just kind of want to arrange your house in a way that allows for you to have some sense of an overview. So, your home office or a reading chair or somewhere where you frequent in your house that's near a window that's kind of just looking out into an open space. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the second floor of a building, even if you just have a single floor home or you live on the first floor of an apartment or something, just a window where it feels like you can kind of look over something. If that makes sense. And then the lower left arrow, if it's pointing left, you have active mountains. And that is just your perspective coming through more movement and exploration. So think like hiking a trail or going to a scenic overlook, or riding like a ski lift, being like up on a rooftop and like walking it, climbing stairs. That's a good one. Just kind of exploring elevated cities in some way, but just being more active, like not just sitting there, like moving around while you're high up is active mountains. And then the other one is, if your arrow's pointing right, that's passive mountains. And that's just your perspective coming through in more of a stillness. So, sitting on a balcony or a high-rise apartment or like a rooftop, just driving up to the top of a hillside or a mountain and just sitting there in your car, just kind of getting to the top higher place and just being still and sitting there and just kind of letting any wisdom or guidance come through. Or I think mountains people are those type of people that just kind of walk in those higher elevated places and like just gain a lot of clarity, It's like, okay, this is where I can come relax and chill and have the perspective. And like by the end, it's like I was able to recharge from that,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then next one is valleys. And valleys is all about communication, connection, flow. So like think just walking out directly into, the earth, unlike mountains where you're wanting to be more high up. Valleys is where information is naturally gathering, flowing, and it is low to the ground. So somewhere where you can just walk out your door and connect to the outside world easily. And those environments for valleys people really help you learn, communicate, absorb what's happening around you. It can also be good for just a place where people are passing through, like living in a town where different cultures and people are coming through. You don't have to, again, with markets, it's like you don't have to engage or be an extroverted person, but just kind of being in that environment where it's easy to just walk out into like living near a town center or something like that, where ideas and conversation and connections can like move freely. And it can be helpful for valleys people to explore parks, trails, new neighborhoods, things that keep them grounded and feeling like they're connected to the earth in some way. My other sister has valleys. She has narrow valleys. So the arrow, second lower arrow is pointing left. And this is just more intimate channels of communication. So think like quiet cafes or small towns, people that you like to have familiar conversations with, neighborhood streets, walking paths, library aisles, stuff like that. Again, you don't have to fully engage in it to get that feeling of clarity, but just kind of being in that space in some way. And then the other one is wide valleys. So the arrow's pointing right. And this is more of like a broad network and bigger exchanges of information. So think like large parks or open public plazas or convention centers or large co-working campuses, or walking trails with many paths and, more hustle and bustle than a narrow valleys person.
Yeah. So valleys is more like nature oriented. It can be more nature oriented.
Yes. Yep.
Than something like markets, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Also, it's like where people are gathering, but not necessarily like exchanging in the same way that a market's environment would be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Somewhere where you can have an exchange of communication and ideas. But yeah, more so getting the energy from a place, I'd say more so outside than a markets person.
More
Yeah,
nature oriented.
yeah. But similar to markets in that way where you are kind of exchanging energy in some way. But this one's more like communicating, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then the last one is shores. And I have shores. Shores is all about transition, balance, and kind of in between spaces. So shores environments are like, I mean, you can literally think of the ocean and the sand, right? Where the land meets the water, but it's literally where like two worlds are meeting in some way. So transitional spaces that help your body kind of settle and have your awareness open in some way. Think of like where a forest meets an open field, or like the suburbs border a city. I have a huge forest in the back of my property, but then the front is like connected to all the people, and there's a shopping center right there. So I feel like I have like this wildlife where I see deer and foxes and raccoons and like wildlife over here. And then if I look over here, it's like I can see the freeway and a whole shopping center. So it's really supportive, actually. And I didn't even really think about that when I bought this house.
Yeah.
But my husband and my daughter both have shores, so it's nice because we all have the same one. And yeah, I'll get into kind of what to do if you have different ones. But yeah, think kind of where two things are kind of converging and it's like this middle space. And you can either have natural shores or artificial shores. Natural shores is with the lower left arrow pointing left. And these are literal transitions created by nature. So like the beach, the ocean shoreline, the lake shore, a riverbank, like a pond, a creek, the forest edge that I was just talking about, like a desert meeting the mountains in some way. That's natural shores. Artificial shores, which is what I have, is with the lower left arrow pointing right. And these are transitions created by people. So a really good example I love with this is like a front porch, like that transition place from your house just to going outside of your house. I get so many insights just sitting on my front porch. It's like I just feel so calm there and chill and relaxed. I love being on my front porch. But other examples of this could be like a balcony, an entryway, a doorway. You can have a chair by your doorway, train station, airport terminal, a boardwalk. It's kind of like sitting in your car before going inside. That's like a transitional place. So if you have shores in general, whether you have natural or artificial, sometimes you can't seek out these natural places. So you can kind of lean into the transitional places that you can find in your home in some way. Chanel's partner, Trevor, and her son, Otto, both have artificial shores as well.
Yeah.
So like a good example for that, they both have artificial shores. Chanel has internal markets. You just going out to the beach or like a riverbank or a creek where people are exchanging energy. And Chanel, you can hear like that buzz in the background of, people around and things to do. And you're kind of just observing it. But they also get two perspectives going on, going to a park where maybe you're in the park and it's like beautiful, but you can also hear, city commerce in the background or see buildings or things going on.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's kind of a more easier one to blend.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense for you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like if you are going to a place where there's two perspectives, there's usually some kind of market going on as well. Like if you went to a boardwalk, you have that perspective for them, but you also have so many different kinds of markets going on.
Yeah, that's like a perfect example.
Yeah. Or like maybe go to a farmer's market where like there's a big mountain over here or like a big lake that you can see, So that's a good way to blend it. And if you live in a house together, you don't have to like just live by shores for the shores person. Do you have a front porch?
Yes.
Yeah. So like their front porch maybe is where they feel good, and get insights, and you're more so internally exchanging on a Zoom call, in your own home as an example. And then when you go out places, you can use the ones I was just talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
So there's always ways that you can mix the environments, like the example I gave my parents with markets and caves. I feel like those two are very different.
Yeah.
And like mountains and valleys, those two are pretty different because one's high and one's like grounding and connecting right out to the earth. But, maybe you find a place where you live on a hill, but when you walk out of your house, you're connecting in some way to the community, or you live across from the community park, or like that's kind of how my neighborhood's set up. It's like up on hill, but some of the houses can go right to the park or down to the like shopping center. So I feel like there's a lot of examples like that if you just kind of think about it and get creative, where you can be high up, but then also connect. Or like if you're in the city, maybe you live in a high rise for the mountains person and you live with a valleys person, and they can just ride the elevator down and go right out into the hustle and bustle, but the mountains person still has the perspective that they can gain from being high up.
Yeah.
So whether you live rural or city, you can definitely make it work.
I'm reflecting on something you said about shores, which is like they're in a place where they can see two different perspectives.
Yeah.
And that's really, I'm like processing that. That is really interesting. I never thought about it that way.
I can say from personal experience, I definitely get so many, and I always thought it was just the ocean before I like found human design. I always got so much clarity and wisdom from being at the beach and just being in the ocean. And then once I found out I had shores, environment, and human design, I was like, whoa, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I wish I could get to the beach more. I mean, maybe one day I will live on a shoreline. But yeah, those transitional places, even like a bathroom can kind of be considered a transitional place. I get so many ahas from just being in my bathroom. And maybe it has something to do with water.
Yeah.
But another thing I do sometimes is I'll just walk my hallway. Like I'll find myself like just kind of walking down the hallway and like checking each room.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because it's an in-between place. But I'll literally just get like so many thoughts that come in just from like going up and down the stairs, So it's very interesting.
Yeah. I have an image of Trevor in the ocean a few years ago when we went to the beach, and he was literally like the happiest I have ever seen him.
Really?
Yeah, swimming in the ocean. It was just like I was like sitting on the beach and watching him in the ocean, and he was just like a little kid with a huge smile on his face. Like, and I was like, oh my God. It was so fun for me to see how much he loved it, And I'm thinking about that now with the perspective of knowing that he has shores.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, and observe Otto and just see if he thrives in the transitional places. One thing I always used to do, I had high blood pressure when I was pregnant, and I would listen to like binaural beats to help lower blood pressure. And I would just close my eyes and picture myself like either swimming in the ocean with dolphins or just like laying on the beach, like listening to the waves crash. That's like where I would just close my eyes and go. And it would always help lower my blood pressure. So that's just fun.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you can also do that if you feel like you don't have a connection to like this type of environment in your home. You can meditate on it and literally just picture yourself in that place. And then find somewhere where you feel comfortable and feel like you're getting that clarity and you just feel open to receive. And your nervous system kind of just like relaxes. It's fun. It's fun to experiment with once you find out what your environment is. And I just want to go through all of them just with a question that you can ask yourself, just for a reminder for everybody. For caves, you can just ask yourself, where do I feel safe enough to receive or, be my authentic self? Markets, where does healthy exchange happen for me? Kitchens, is about transformation and creativity. So where is transformation or creativity occurring? Mountains, you can ask, where do I gain perspective? Valleys, people, where does information naturally flow? And then shores, people, where do different worlds meet? Those are good things to just kind of ask yourself when you're trying to figure out where you want to go to tap into your environment.
I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for environments. Any other questions about it?
I love what you said about even just like meditating about like that place. Or I'm even thinking like, you know, if you're a mountains person, finding like a YouTube video of like
Oh, I love
the
that.
mountain and like seeing like the perspective of the mountain, or
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, like just getting creative about these environments, because you don't always have to be like physically there, but
Yeah.
yeah, just meditating on it. I like
Mhm.
that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so helpful. Or another good thing you can do is find like a piece of artwork that corresponds with your environment and has maybe that perspective for shores, or like has a beautiful farmer's market going on that you like looking at, you know, and hang it up in your workspace or your bedroom so you can just like see it. It definitely comforts you. It will.
Yeah, we have a really pretty painting in our bedroom that is very shores. It's like the shoreline with like a bunch of like flowers, but then you can see like the water. And it reminds me of when we went to Portland, Maine area, and like we loved it there. But Trevor really loved it there too. But it was like that's a perfect shores environment for him because
Yeah.
it's right on the ocean. But you know, there's still like lots of land, and then Portland, the city itself, is very markets like.
Yeah.
We both
Oh.
really liked it there. And so when I saw that painting, I bought it because it reminded me of like, just like the Portland area and like the ocean view. And that's so funny you mentioned that.
Oh,
Just
I
didn't
love
think of
that. Yeah. Send me a picture of that. I'd love to see what it is.
it. Yeah, I will.
Maybe one day we'll all move to Maine
Honestly,
together.
like whenever, like when we went to Salem a few years ago, like the
Yeah.
Massachusetts like coast, the Maine coast, I really love that like northeast
Me
coastline.
too.
I feel really good there.
Me
So
too. I
yeah.
agree. Yeah, I love it up there. And it's slightly cooler, I'd say, than where I live now. And I'm just always chasing to be colder.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you enjoyed the episode, let us know what your environment is. I'd love to hear what it is and if it resonated with you. And if you want to go deeper with it, you can book a reading on our website and you can get a whole primary health system reading, is what it's called in human design. And we'll go into your diet, environment, perspective, motivation. So yeah, you can go deeper into it there. And reminder to rate and review us. It always helps get this out there to more people. And thanks for listening.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.